Yes, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and all binary aspects of gender. Yes. Today, we are going to run through a retrospect of the classic first-person 3D shooter Second World War game from the PlayStation 1, Medal of Honor. Released in 1999 and developed by those pesky legendary developers at Dreamworks and published by EA. Yes, I can hear you now. Did he just say EA? Yes, I did. EA, in actual fact, once made good games. All of this came from the brain of an unexpected source, and one that you would not have associated with video games at the time. One Steven Spielberg, who had a highly invested interest in the development of this game. Using his filmmaking expertise, he helped bring to life a Second World War game never before seen in the industry. Although personally I think he was just trying to recreate his iconic film Saving Private Ryan in video game form, and then realised the stumbling block that was the restrictions and limitations of the time in video game development. And so he settled with the final product on shelves with a banging musical score and ambient soundtrack. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the retrospect of Medal of Honor, and I'd also like to say welcome to Leo Gaming. Question: what do you get if you take the biggest war of the 20th century and combine it with James Bond? That's right, you get the most annoying video game aiming system from the PlayStation 1 era. Granted, analog sticks had not been created for the PS1 yet, but come on! This is where I'm going to start with the controls. You see, playing Medal of Honor all these years later really highlights to me how much harder games were back then. I mean, at the time it felt natural, it felt good. But the system has definitely not aged well. For one, you have to stop in position in order to shoot the enemy. You see, there's no Call of Duty run and gun here. Although I do miss this type of game where you don't have 1,000 enemy AI on the screen and are more or less being James Bond, but with the name James Patterson. The similarities are there. For two, turning or moving around corners seems to slow your character down to a snail's pace, whereby you end up finding yourself strafing around the corners, and before you know it, moving through each level sideways, like everywhere. For three, your turn circle is also so slow. When an enemy even remotely comes close to you, you find yourself running away so you can get some distance in order to line up your shot with the stop and aim reticle. This isn't so bad in the first few levels, as the enemies are easier and don't deal so much damage. But later, my god, when they all have SMGs and are in front and behind you, in a tight corridor, you fall to the floor faster than a dead weight. For four, these were the days when you did not have a weapon wheel. Instead, you had to cycle through your weapons to the correct one. Should you run out of ammo, which when you've got 4 enemies bearing down on you makes for the quickest your index finger will ever move. You see, this takes me on to the fact that throughout the game you will never have more than 4 enemies at one time against you, whether that be a design choice or the limitations of the hardware. For one, I think it's the latter. Talking of limitations, the draw distance is so poor they've used a sort of black darkness coupled with a slight fog to disguise the assets and environment clipping in or loading textures. To be honest, there's good and bad to this method. The bad is sometimes you can't see the enemies until they see you at the same time, which also renders the sniper rifle almost pointless. But then there's the good, where in actual fact it makes the levels feel bigger, similar to GTA San Andreas sort of feel, the original PS2 version by the way. It also gives the game a certain feel, a certain enclosed feeling where you are more focused about what's in front of you rather than scouring the distance. America! Moving on to some of the mechanics of the game. Most noticeably, the disguise missions, where on a few levels you are disguised as one of the enemy. This is good because it changes the pace of the game, meaning you haven't got to worry about weapons until a certain point. You also get stopped by the enemy, to which you have to show your ID, or identification, to allow you to continue. However, this also has a flaw. You see, you pass an enemy once, show them your identification, and continue on your way. But then 30 seconds later, coming back past the same enemy will ask you again, meaning they have no memory, so it can get very repetitive. These are the levels that remind me of James Bond the most. I mean, you could add backing music to the gameplay and well, just watch.
I need to see some identification.
Give me some.
May I see your papers, please?
Your papers. May I see your papers, please?
I'm sorry, but I can't let you in.
You see what I mean? The whole game is almost like James Bond, just in a Second World War setting. I definitely believe this took a lot of inspiration from 007 GoldenEye on the N64. Now let's move on to the level and mission structure. You begin with a short real-life video of the Second World War with a voiceover explaining what's happening and what you've got to do. This really sets you up and gives you the scene in which you must complete your missions on each level. I personally really enjoyed these intros, especially with the voiceover. It had that sound and that just immersed you in the game. You see, there are 7 main levels and then sub-levels within each one. This was a good way to increase content without having to create too many variations or scenes within the game. This cuts time and cost in development. Once you watched this intro, you are passed on to Manon, your contact within the Resistance, who then briefs you on your goals for each sub-level. You see, each level has an overall goal, and then each sub-level has objectives within them. Things such as fetch this manifest, plant charges on this, kill a number of Gestapo soldiers, grab this pass, or blow up this vehicle, or sabotage this or that. Now, these objectives might seem basic, but I found them brilliant because they are basic and not overcomplicated, where they are diluted by an open world layout. What it says to do and where, you do it, and in the place it says it is. This leads me onto the level layout. You see, the design of the level lends itself to the missions you're completing. The level is very linear, with each objective dotted throughout but in an order to which you're supposed to complete them, making sure that your purpose within the level is satisfied throughout. Now, I did say the levels are linear, which they are, apart from a few different paths you can take from the main path. These generally lead to an area with supplies or ammo, or merely curve back round to the main path. Playing this game, you could be forgiven for thinking that it could be played on rails because of how tight and linear the paths can be, but also with the enemy placements. Now, let me move on to the sound and music, which I think is absolutely fantastic in this game. When you are confronted by the enemy, it really lays on the dramatic music that generates a feeling to the player that you are battling enemies in this setting. Then at the same time, in the more quiet moments, the music tones right down and you can hear distant gunfire, German shouting, whistles blowing and dogs barking, which really gives you a sense of events and life happening around you or somewhere off in the distance. You see, this creates a constant tension where you are unsure as to whether the noise you hear in the distance is right around the next corner, constantly keeping you aware of your surroundings. For me, what gives this game life and really brings it to the forefront is the sound and music. Although there is one soundbite, one voiceover, one character AI voice that really does not blend in with this theme of this game.
Hello.
See, suddenly you've got all these German accents, then we go from a German accent to a posh English accent. Hello. See, personally, I think there was a bit of backstory to this character. Well, that's what I like to give him anyway. I think he was a British spy. And which is why he stands and salutes and says hello in a nice posh British accent. So, guys, anyway, that is the end of my retrospective of Medal of Honor. So, all in all, guys, how I see it is this game is an absolute PlayStation 1 classic. And it's all thanks to one man, Steven Spielberg. If it wasn't for his idea of going to Dreamworks and EA to get this game made, we would never have had Call of Duty or Battlefield. You see, this game, Call of Duty and Battlefield, have got this original Medal of Honor game to thank for the start of that genre. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this retrospect of Medal of Honor. I certainly did enjoy making it. Guys, if you do like my content, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will continue bringing some classic retrospectives. Guys, love you all. Goodbye.